Well, morning, guys. I don't know if you realise this, but I've been doing a off and on series called Games We'd Like to Play. And so far I've only covered two games, and they were the Fight Night games and also the Burnout games, which are both series that I enjoyed and both series that I would like to see new versions of, especially Fight Night. But today I'd like to talk about another game, and that's a game that is particularly close to my heart and I think is close to the hearts of lots of gamers of my generation, and that's Half-Life and Half-Life 2. And I would love to see a Half-Life 3. Whether we will get to see it or not is open to debate, and I would err on the side of probably not. But it is a great game, and I would like to see a new version of it, or a sequel to the games we've already had. But first things first, let's have a little bit of history. The original Half-Life was released on November the 8th, 1998. Yeah, that long ago. Half-Life 2 followed on November the 16th, 2004. And then we got The Lost Coast on October the 27th, 2005 as a free download on Steam. Steam was in its infancy back then. This was also followed by Episode 1 on June the 1st, 2006 and Episode 2 on October the 10th, 2007. Now, Gabe Newell has stated that he saw those episodes almost as Half-Life 3, and it was supposed to be a kind of episodic sequel. Unfortunately, we only got Episode 2 and then it didn't continue on after that. It did spawn many add-ons and lots of mods, though, and probably the most notable of those was Portal and subsequently Portal 2. But we're not going to talk about those today, even though they are great games in their own right. But why is Half-Life such a great game, and why is Half-Life 2 such a great game? Well, the first thing that comes to mind for me is story. It's essentially a mystery, and you are kept at arm's length from what's going on. You've got an idea of what's going on. It's an alien invasion in effect, but you don't know what the end game is. And especially in Half-Life 2, you're trying to kind of work it out as you go through the game. What on earth's going on? And then you've got the man in black. Wake up, Mr. Freeman, wake up and smell the ashes, he says. And he appears at various points throughout the game, and you're trying to work out who he is and what he stands for. And there's loads of speculation about that online, and I'll leave you to look that lot up. But then you get the characterization, and that's really interesting. The characterization, there essentially isn't any. Gordon Freeman, his name is interesting in and of itself. Gordon is a very sort of average kind of name. And then Freeman, free man. He is perhaps the only free man, or he represents the free man. And because you don't actually get to see his face, or you don't know very much about him beyond that, you get to invest yourself into that character. Now, this has been done in other games, but I think the Half-Life games do it particularly well. And you do really feel for Gordon, because in a way you feel that Gordon is you. You are the guy going through the game. In literature, there's a second person, if you like, and it's when the writer says, you do this, you do that. And Half-Life has that kind of effect. You're made to feel like it's you doing it, much more so than many other first-person shooters. And I think that's kind of masterful, the way they've done that. Whether that was planned or whether they fell into it, I don't know. But it worked particularly well. Also, Gordon Freeman, the name, evokes other dystopias, such as 1984 specifically. In Orwell's 1984, you have Winston Smith. Winston, kind of after Churchill, and Smith, which is again everyman. So he's the hero, but he's the everyman. And that's true in Half-Life, and it works in much the same way. But moving on from character, we also have the whole vista that you're thrown into, the whole environment. And the environment for a game of that period was extremely well done. I spent periods going around looking at stuff and not actually playing the game, especially on the second and third time through it. Driving through the canal network, I found myself stopping and looking at the distant buildings and listening to the voices. There was a tannoy that kept speaking, and at times you would hear about them searching for Gordon Freeman, you in effect, and it was quite chilling. Nothing was going on at that point, but you feel kind of afraid, and it really does evoke a real world feeling. I still enjoy playing the game, and I still think it looks pretty good now. and I still feel invested in the character, and I feel in a real world when I'm playing it. You know, not everything's about the shiniest, nicest graphics. Sometimes it's about the environment you create, using sound effects, using music, and the music in Half-Life is particularly good as well. It kind of makes you feel a bit eerie, and it's strange music. So all those aspects, all those elements come together and they create a whole which is better than most other games out there of that type. And you can see the influence, as I said before, you can see the influence in games like The Last of Us. There's a scene in The Last of Us where you stand on a balcony and the giraffes come through. And it's a brilliant scene because it's slow and you get a moment to sit and to take in the environment. And I don't think scenes like that would have necessarily happened if we hadn't have had Half-Life. It's no coincidence that Neil Druckmann of Naughty Dog said that he'd love to make Half-Life 3 if Valve weren't going to do it. You know, hey Valve, if you're not going to do it, give it to the guys, let them make it, because I would love to see those guys doing that game. If you're not going to do it, not going to happen, but hey, you know, we can live in hope. And then the pacing, and I've already touched on this with the fact that, you know, it slows down a little bit. Half-Life 2 and games that followed it, games that were influenced by it, aren't afraid to stop and take in the environment, aren't afraid to allow the gamer to explore, allow the gamer to feel like they're in a real world, even if it's only for the short period of time that they're actually playing the game. The suspension of disbelief, where you're sucked into a real environment, a real world. You cannot emphasize that too much, that Half-Life does that so well. And then we come to the artificial intelligence. The artificial intelligence in the game, especially in Half-Life 2, was particularly good, especially for the time it was released. And I think it would stand up pretty well now. In fact, I know it stands up pretty well now because I was playing it just recently, and it does. There's been so much emphasis on online gaming. I think in some respects people have taken their eye off the ball when it comes to story in game and creating decent AI. I think a lot of these games now, well, we all know about Call of Duty and all those games which don't really pay much attention to the offline side of things. And Half-Life could show them a thing or two, I think. Not just in terms of the environments, but also in terms of things like AI. And I'm quite prepared to put my hands up and say, you know, I'm not an expert on this, but it feels pretty good to me when I'm playing it. So yeah, come on, Valve, please. You know what I'm going to say. You guys out there know what I'm going to say. Let's have another Half-Life game. Come on, please. We're begging you. There's a lot of us out here who've been waiting for this game for so long now, and we've kind of given up, really. But if you announced Half-Life 3 at next, I don't know, E3, if you announced Half-Life 3, I think the world would stop spinning for some people. We'd be holding our breath waiting. It's a no-brainer, isn't it? If somebody puts out a Half-Life 3 game and they do a good job with it, it'll sell like hotcakes and everybody will be happy. So please, come on. Either make it yourself, Valve, or, I don't know, give it to Naughty Dog. I don't care who makes it, as long as it still has the feel of the original games. But that's enough of my opinion. What do you guys think? Come on down into the comments and let me know. Would you like to see a new Half-Life game? Or do you think time's gone by and it's passé now, that we don't need a new one? Whatever you think, let me know and we can have a chat about it. But in the meantime, I'm going to go and have a cup of tea. I will speak to you guys again soon. Bye.